Welcome back everybody to another episode of Direct Comparison. In today's episode, we're going to look at the recently released Crash Team Racing Nitro field, and see how it compares visually to Nintendo's own Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, before we go any further, it's important to understand that Mario Kart 8 originally released for the Nintendo Wii U back in 2014, and was then re-released for the Nintendo Switch under the title Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, with higher resolutions, improved performance, all of the downloadable content, and a number of new exclusive features. Because of this, we should theoretically expect a game from 2019 to look better visually. So for this video, I'm not going to only talk about graphical differences, but also go in depth into the available features and gameplay mechanics of both games in order to provide a more detailed explanation of exactly how these two karting games stack up. To kick this comparison off, let's first look at the available modes in each game. Now, both games handle these modes and their menus very differently, so in order to properly compare this, let's first focus on the single-player aspects of both games, starting with the main campaign. In Mario Kart 8, the main single-player experience consists of completing 4 race cups in the Grand Prix mode. There were initially 8 cups in this mode, each with 4 unique tracks to race in, but 4 more cups were made available as downloadable content and have been included by default with the deluxe version of the game. There's no story, bosses, or any form of real progression here, and you can play the cups in any order you'd like, with trophies being awarded to players who managed to earn the first place position in the podium, and stars being awarded for players who managed to come in first across all of the races. Crash Team Racing, on the other hand, features a full adventure mode. This mode features a small narrative experience, where the characters in the Crash universe are forced to compete in order to stop an evil alien from taking over the planet. This adds a nice extra layer of depth to the experience, and takes what's essentially just a series of 4 race cups and turns them into something more meaningful, with boss fights being thrown in at the end of each area to help add in an extra bit of challenge. Completing the adventure mode unlocks new racers and several customization options, with additional content being made available through a digital store called the Pit Stop. Thankfully, the Pit Stop only offers cosmetic changes that have no impact on the actual performance of the player's vehicles. Though various characters, some of which are only available at the Pit Stop, do have uniquely balanced stats. Mario Kart 8, on the other hand, features a more random approach to unlocks, with customization options being awarded after earning enough coins, though players can always attempt to unlock the coveted Golden Mario and Golden Kart pieces by mastering different aspects of the game. Unlike CTR, Mario Kart 8's stats are tied to the vehicles. This means players can choose any character that they like, but need to carefully choose the right vehicle parts to suit their playstyle. I personally think this system works a little bit better, as it allows players to choose their favorite character without having to sacrifice any specific type of performance to their racing. Moving on from the main campaign, let's talk about the other available modes. Mario Kart 8 features time trials, a custom versus race mode, and a battle mode, with many different arenas to fight in. Crash Team Racing also features custom single races, a cup mode, time trials, and battle arenas, but also has relic races, CTR challenges, and the crystal challenges. These extra modes aren't necessarily that much more interesting, but they do add slightly more variety. Though it is worth mentioning that Mario Kart's battle mode does feature a lot of different gameplay modifiers and unique objectives not available in Crash Team Racing's battle mode. Now let's talk about the multiplayer options in both games. Both Mario Kart 8 and Crash Team Racing allow for local multiplayer for up to 4 players on the same console. However, the online multiplayer is where Mario Kart 8 takes a sizable lead. First, Mario Kart 8 allows for 2-player local multiplayer when playing online against other players. This option is not available in Crash Team Racing Nitro field, no matter what console you try to play it on. Next, the online community for Mario Kart 8, at least currently, seems to be far healthier than the online community for Crash Team Racing. I was able to consistently find largely populated sessions in Mario Kart 8, whereas CTR on the Switch struggled to find anything more than 2 other players. As far as actual stability and network performance goes, I didn't run into any major issues with either game. I did have an instance where another player was able to land a hit on me despite a well-placed item that would have normally blocked the shot, but other than that, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. So, as far as the multiplayer goes, I think Mario Kart 8 does a slightly better job at this. Now, let's get into the real meat of the experience, the actual racing itself, especially in how the vehicles handle in both games. Here's where Crash Team Racing really shines. CTR's excellent drifting, boosting, and jumping mechanics feel far more satisfying than the floaty design of Mario Kart 8. Landing from jumps in Crash Team Racing gives a genuine feeling of weight to the vehicle, with the cart and the characters smashing down and immediately lurching forward from an automatic speed boost. Mario Kart 8 features very similar mechanics, with jumps triggering a speed boost, but the actual impact of the vehicle when it hits the ground doesn't seem to change regardless of the height of the jump. Drifting in CTR also feels much more responsive. When initializing a drift maneuver in Mario Kart 8, there's a brief period at the start where control of the kart is severely limited. This requires players to hop into a drift prior to reaching the actual turn. Crash Team Racing, on the other hand, immediately gives players control of the kart right at the start of the drift, allowing for either a tight, loose, or wide drift to account for the twisting turns in all of the tracks. Boosting is also handled very differently. When performing a drift in Mario Kart 8, small colored sparks near the tires will begin to appear, indicating that a boost is available. After letting go of the drift, the boost will immediately begin, allowing players to quickly clear long straights in order to get to the next turn. Crash Team Racing is much more involved though. While drifting, a small meter in the bottom right will begin to fill, and players will need to press the alternate shoulder button in order to activate the boost. Triggering this too soon or too late will cancel the potential for a boost, but timing it perfectly can reset the meter for a maximum of 3 boosts. Mario Kart 8 also has 3 boosts, but again, these are triggered automatically simply by holding the drift out, making it far less involved and much easier to accomplish. Linking boosts from jumps, drifts, and boost pads in Crash Team Racing feels far more satisfying when the player is more involved in how the boosts are activated. Now, let's look at how weapons are handled in both titles. There's no denying that Crash Team Racing borrowed pretty much all of its elements from the likes of Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing. Even the original developers of the 1999 game have admitted this. But the question now is which game has the more properly balanced arsenal to make for a more fun gameplay experience? Well, for the most part, both games are pretty fairly balanced. There's your offensive weapons like red shells or missiles, the green shells, or in Crash Team Racing's case, the bowling bombs, blue shells, or the blue electric orb, and of course, there's more defensive weapons like banana peels or the green beakers. All these weapons function practically the same, but there's still a few key differences to take into account. For starters, Mario Kart 8 features a ton of other weapons, including a boomerang, a sonic blast, and even a piranha plant that eats nearby racers. Crash Team Racing, since it relies heavily on only weapons offered in the original 1999 game, offers a far more limited arsenal. However, there are a few unique items that are fairly useful, including TNT crates and the energy shields. As far as the weapon handling goes, I think I had to give it to Mario Kart for offering better variety and a more comfortable control scheme. Pressing A, or if you're playing on the PlayStation, the circle button, in order to use items has always felt uncomfortable. But Mario Kart 8 simply makes use of one of the rear triggers for this control. I also love how you can not only see what other players are holding, but you can hold down the fire button to prime an item behind your kart, adding an extra layer of defense from incoming projectiles. Still, Crash Team Racing does offer a much better collectible coin system, or in its case, Wumpa Fruit. After collecting 10 Wumpa Fruit, the player's kart will not only drive faster, but any picked up weapons will be enhanced with more devastating effects. MK8, on the other hand, only offers some slight speed boosts for collecting coins. Finally, let's take an in-depth look at the visuals between both games, starting with the design of the karts and character models. Here's where Mario Kart 8's higher native resolution gives it a huge advantage. All of Mario Kart 8's characters and models appear much more crisp and sharp on the Nintendo Switch, whereas Crash Bandicoot and his friends come off as more blurry and less defined. Though, in Crash's defense, the design of the characters themselves are far more complex, with more polygons and overall detail. Of course, it's difficult to really determine which design is better, as that's more subjective, but it is interesting to see the difference in art style here between characters created by Japanese developers versus characters created with a more Western influence. The karts themselves are surprisingly very similar in their designs. The standard kart design in both games features wide kart tires with nicely detailed treads, a rear-mounted engine, and 2 large exhaust pipes in the rear. The only worthwhile difference here is that the kart in MK8 can transform throughout races, either into an underwater propulsion vehicle, a hang glider, or it can even swap into an anti-gravity mode that allows players to drive upside down and along the walls. Crash Team Racing, however, does not allow for any form of kart transformation. This is a surprising discovery, as Nitro Fueled includes every level from 2003's Crash Nitro Kart, and many of these levels originally featured large anti-gravity sections like loops and vertical walls. Next, let's take a look at the environments in both games, starting with the number of available tracks. In Mario Kart 8, players can choose to play from 48 different tracks, many of which are overhauled versions of classic Mario Kart levels from across the series' history. These tracks offer a decent variety of themes, including snowy mountaintops, hot deserts, cliffsides, and even the clouds. most of which are inspired by the various environments explored in classic Mario games. Crash Team Racing, on the other hand, only features 31 tracks currently, with 18 of those being remakes of the original 1999 game's tracks, and 13 being remakes of the 2003 title. However, Deluxe has confirmed the existence of a completely original track, and likely plans on releasing more tracks in the future. Also, players on the PlayStation 4 are given an exclusive retro track, bringing the total starting number of tracks up to 32. The levels in Crash Team Racing Nitro Field offer plenty of variety too, all based around different environments in the classic Crash Bandicoot games, including jungles, ruins, snowy glaciers, arenas, and several science fiction locations like space stations and laboratories. In determining which game has more fun tracks to race on, we once again run into a bit of a subjective opinion, so it's possible you may feel differently. Crash Team Racing's tracks do seem to offer a lot more space for maneuvering, along with more clever shortcut designs, and much better flow to the jumps, boost pads, and churns, allowing for some great boosting combos. Mario Kart 8, on the other hand, seems to put a bit too much focus on the kart transformation aspects, especially the hang glider portions, which seem to greatly hurt the flow of the racing for large portions of the track. There's still plenty of great churns and jumps, but the shortcuts in Mario Kart 8 are often very small and offer only a minimal advantage. When we look closer at similar environmental textures, we can see that despite Crash Team Racing's lower resolution and blurrier overall presentation, several ground textures appear far more detailed, especially dirt and asphalt. Though this seems to change from track to track, with snow and grass appearing far more detailed in Mario Kart. Both games seem to go back and forth on this, so it's difficult to really say one game's environments look better than the other. But overall, Crash Team Racing's environments are just more complex and detailed than Mario Kart's. But Mario Kart has far more tracks to play, and with a healthy bit of variety to keep it interesting. Next, let's talk about the lighting effects. Lighting in Crash Team Racing is far more advanced than the lighting effects used in Mario Kart 8. Dark caves are illuminated by hundreds of different light sources, all realistically emitting light that seems to accurately reflect off of nearby surfaces. Mario Kart 8 does this too, but there's far fewer lights in any one scene, and the lighting in general feels much brighter and less realistic. This isn't necessarily a bad thing though, as Mario Kart's bright and colorful aesthetic greatly adds to the feel of the experience, and it allows the various character models to really pop on the screen with their bright coloration and reflective plastic-like appearance. When it comes to shadows, Crash Team Racing earns itself an easy win. Shadows in Mario Kart are either too jagged, like the player model in Kart, or appear too static, with shadows from environmental objects like trees not being cast in real time. CTR, on the other hand, features softer, more natural shadow effects, with only a slight shimmer along the edges, and proper shadow projections from things like trees that move in the wind. And finally, let's look at the special effects, starting with fire. Fire effects in both games aim for a more unrealistic, cartoon-like aesthetic, and so again, determining which is better is more about determining which art style you prefer more. When boosting in Mario Kart, fire effects will shoot out of the rear exhaust pipes, which appear as a series of uneven yellow circles, quickly growing and being replaced over and over again. Crash Team Racing, however, has a more consistent flow of fire that emerges from the vehicle's exhaust, with bright orange flames growing depending on the speed and consistency of the boosts. Explosions look significantly better in CTR though, due mainly to the fact that most of the weapons in CTR cause explosive effects rather than the less threatening design of weapon impacts in Mario Kart. Being hit by a missile, for example, causes a massive explosion that engulfs the player's car and causes them to flip violently in the air. Mario Kart features some explosive effects like the bomb bombs, but the effect itself appears as a perfect sphere with some weak fire effects. Water, on the other hand, marks another win for Mario Kart, as several of the water surfaces throughout the various tracks in Mario Kart feature excellent water simulation effects as opposed to Crash Team Racing's flat and dull surfaces. This is understandable considering Crash Team Racing doesn't offer any way to drive underwater like in Mario Kart, but it's still disappointing. When observing the karts sitting in shallow water, it does look like CTR offers some nice ripple effects not at all visible in Mario Kart, so at least there's that. The last effect I wanted to talk about is cloud simulation. In Mario Kart 8, clouds appear incredibly stylized, which is completely in line with the franchise's core aesthetic. It looks great, and the smart use of shadows and layers helps to make this skybound track feel even more impressive. But Crash Team Racing, on the other hand, aims for a far more realistic approach, with full volumetric clouds in its Skyway racetrack. This looks extremely impressive, and really helps to build an excellent atmosphere of the environment itself. At the end of the day, what really matters when looking at all these excellent visuals in both games is how the games actually perform. Mario Kart 8 runs at a solid locked 60 frames per second across both single-player and two-player split-screen modes. This provides a buttery smooth experience that really helps make the game feel more polished and enjoyable. Unfortunately, this is one of the biggest areas where Crash Team Racing struggles. CTR is locked at 30 FPS, and frequently dips below this target on the Nintendo Switch platform, even in single-player modes. Based on the visual differences observed, this makes sense, as the lighting and various effects like volumetric clouds and smoke are far more demanding than the more stylized approach used in Mario Kart. But it's surprising to find that even on the more powerful hardware like the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro, they fail to achieve that coveted 60 FPS sweet spot. This improved performance gives Mario Kart 8 a much better feel, even if the actual driving and drifting doesn't feel as satisfying. And that wraps up this episode of Direct Comparison. Despite Mario Kart 8's age, it still manages to hold up surprisingly well against Beanox's recent CTR remake. MK's excellent performance, solid visual direction, clean visual effects, and robust set of features gives it a significant edge over Nitro Fueled. However, when it comes to the actual gameplay and feel of the driving itself, I have to give it to Crash Team Racing for not only offering a more involved boosting mechanic, but also making the jumping and drifting mechanics feel more impactful. CTR is a much faster experience, assuming you know what you're doing, and the increased skill gap will likely pique the interest of more competitive kart racer fans. CTR also features more advanced lighting effects, more detailed character models, and potential for even more content to be added at a later date, something that is unlikely to happen for Mario Kart 8 at this point. Though, if you were torn between picking up one karting game over the other for the Nintendo Switch, I think Mario Kart's accessibility and much smoother presentation makes it the obvious choice. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled is great, though the Switch version of the game is easily the weakest, with less detailed environments, a dead online community, and much worse performance. But what do you guys think? Do you like Mario Kart 8 or Crash Team Racing better? Or maybe there's another karting game you think is even better than those two? Let me know in the comments section. And if you'd like to learn more about Crash Bandicoot and its impressive 20+ year long run, be sure to check out my History of Crash Bandicoot video linked at the end. And if you haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and set up your alerts for more content posted every week.